Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Goodcast Show. Today I have with me, I'm very honored to have this guest on. He's someone I've been watching for a while now. His interviews on BFM and Astro Avani are legendary. He's spoken to ministers, politicians, businessmen, activists, poets, cultural artists, and the list goes on and on. You would have seen him yourself on shows like Let's Talk with Sharaad Kuttan, BFM's Morning Headlines, and BFM Unscripted. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor, and I'm so proud to introduce my guest, the intellectual, the eloquent, and the amazing Mr. Sharaad Kuttan. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much. It was very kind of you. I'm usually, asking the questions, not answering them. But I'll give it my best shot.
Yes. So how does it feel being on that side now?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm qualified to speak about anything really. I have my opinions, clearly, like everybody else.
Yeah.
But as a journalist, I rely on other people's research. I rely on the work that people do on the ground, and there's a lot of opinion making and opinionating in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And I don't always know if that's so valuable. So to be opinionating myself without having done some serious work, I don't know. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for bringing me out to Puchong Selatan. It's a part of the world I have not explored. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. You told me today a very interesting fact. You don't drive.
No, I don't drive. I don't drive because... How did that happen? Well, it was all a kind of series of mishaps. But primarily because I grew up in Singapore, and at a time when I should have been learning how to drive, I thought, I don't need to drive. And then when I came home to Malaysia much later in my life, when I was 29, I kind of just negotiated the city, minibuses, intracote, if you remember those,
yes, those tiny
vehicles and modes of transport. And the time when you had to go down to the street to hail a taxi. And I found that I could actually do it. And I liked it. And I just thought, well, I don't really need to drive. I thought I would be very bad at driving. To be honest, I thought I'd probably kill myself or some people. So I just, never learned how to drive.
Exactly.
I've turned into a virtue now.
Exactly. Save the world. So, you've done many interviews. One of them that I remember watching very young was the interview you did with KJ. That was during the change. It was a very interesting time in politics in Malaysia, I remember. That was when KJ was very young himself. Among all the interviews that you have done, which are the ones that stand out to you as your favorite?
Oh, wow. KJ. So was that something I wrote? It was written?
No. It was on BFM.
Oh, it was on BFM. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I've done so many interviews that I don't really remember them very clearly. And I often remember them as being much more friendly than the people I interview. I always remember them as being tough.
Okay.
But I think I've met a lot of extraordinary people and who were interesting at different times of their lives. So you mentioned KJ. I had actually interviewed him when he was really just out of university, getting into UMNO. And I did an interview for something called The Vox. It was a pullout in the Sun newspaper. And it was about him being a liberal. Him being a liberal in UMNO and trying to kind of transform the party into something that he felt the party in some ways had the DNA to go. There was a direction that he could go and to kind of really hold on to those liberal values. But he felt kind of under pressure, at that time. And so I've seen someone like KJ change over time. And I think the last time I interviewed him was for Astro Avani when he was the health minister. And this was during the COVID crisis. And so, he transformed. Politics had transformed him. He was a very different person from the young man that I'd met all those years ago. So that is nice. I think I must say that sometimes coming back to individuals over time can be very rewarding for a journalist because you see them grow and it's not just a one-off thing. And so give me some time to think about this, but I can't say one interview over others. Just a way of having conversations with people over time, I think, has been the special thing for me.
So you have an hour, so I guess I'll just circle back at the end.
maybe.
Keep in view. Now, again, just out of my curiosity, since you have met KJ in different parts of his career, when he started, then when he was, at that time he was already in the UMNO Muda, the youth, and then as a minister. He's also mentioned that he wants to be Prime Minister. So in your moments of meeting him now, do you think that he'll make a good PM?
KJ, PM, well, I think so I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's good to be PM in this country. And I think the country is changing so rapidly. So our ideas of what a PM can be, in the past, I grew up in the terrible wonderful long decades of Tun Mahathir's rule. And there was an idea that if you came to power, you could stamp your personality, you could stamp, your ideas of the world, your vision onto a country. I just don't think it operates anymore. So, if Anwar had become prime minister, succeeding Mahathir all those decades ago, it would have been a very different prime ministership. I mean, today, I think Anwar is forced to be much more consultative. He has to give and take a lot, more give than take, I think. KJ, if he comes to power, will be the same. I think he will have to deal with a Malaysia that is much more demanding, both from the populace, but also from other stakeholders like the states. So the state governments and how they view things. We see the rise of royalist reassertion. So they are making demands on government as well. And so, whatever KJ might have wanted to be as a prime minister, I think today if he became prime minister, it would be very different. So I can't say. I mean, I'm not a fan. I'm not a detractor. I've seen him transform, as I've seen Anwar transform. I've seen many other politicians. It's not a life I want for myself, because it's a life of constant compromise, and you live in this world of being strategic, and while you might have long-term plans, you need to think about survival, and that's tough. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a politician in this country or any country, to be honest.
Fair enough. But speaking, still on the topic of politicians, you are someone who comes from your family. You have very notable people who were in politics and who've made really a strong imprint in Malaysia. I'm referring to your uncle, your late uncle.
So James Puducherry. James and Dominic Puducherry, my mother's brothers. They came up. I guess, how do you say? I mean, really out of the war, right? Out of the Second World War, and they were political. They were, unionists. They were also. James was involved in setting up CPF in Singapore and talking about public housing. He was a man of the left and paid a price for that. And and so that was the politics at that time. I have a cousin now who's a member of cabinet in Singapore, right? He's the Minister of State Senior Minister of State for Health, General Puducherry, Dominic Puducherry's son. And so, I mean, there are a few members of my family that have gone to politics, but not that many. Okay. I think for the most part, most of us not very politically active in that same way. Everybody's got opinions. I come from a family where everybody's got opinions.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And that's my mother's side. And my father's side, actually, notable members of my father's family are actually actresses in Tamil cinema. So,
such as?
And you probably didn't know. But that one cousin, Shobha, the late Shobha, she died decades ago. Which
Shobha is this?
So her last film was called Pasi. And Balu Mahendra was the director. And anyway, my cousin very tragically killed herself. But and my aunt too, who is also as an actress in Tamil cinema. First Malayalam cinema, then Tamil cinema. And I know people don't Prema. But she was a comedic, she played comedic roles. But people don't know that side of my family. They always mention James and Dominic because they're well known in this setting. But so there's a bit of famous. Most of us are, doctors or lawyers and lead very quiet lives. Yeah.
But growing up and now, you've been, of course, like I said before, you have interviewed and spoken with a lot of politicians, a lot of world leaders, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, who is the leader in your eyes, in your mind, that really you hold in high regard, whether past or present, living or dead?
Wow, you're asking like difficult questions because I just don't necessarily think of the world in that way. I think when I was a much younger man, was a teenager, I had heroes. I mean, my uncles were my heroes, partly because there was an aura around them being political prisoners, right? Lee Kuan Yew, first the British and then Lee Kuan Yew had put them into prison under the Internal Security Act. And so for me, there was an act of courage and heroism, and I hero worshipped them. it was not a very thoughtful position. It was an emotional, sentimental view that I had of my uncles and their work. But I'm not given to hero worshipping. I think I maybe as a teenager, I definitely was a socialist. I mean, I believed, that some ways, so the struggles that were global, captured global news headlines when I was growing up would be the anti-apartheid movement, the Sandinista movement in Nicaragua, which also became the subject of popular culture in America, but and singers, folk singers and others, sang about that. I mean, I think the 80s also represented a time when Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan really were hegemonic. They were big and they were shaping the world. Yeah, larger than life. And I really didn't like them. I mean, I really disliked Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher as models for politics. And I really did see myself as somebody more interested in third world liberation movements. I was very interested in civil society and activists, working in that field more than I was in mainstream politics. And I think because of my own left orientation, developed this sense that one had to fight on the side of people who are oppressed or marginal. I mean, that was my upbringing. My upbringing.
So you were very left in your upbringing.
Since my father was a deeply conservative man politically, and my mother was very neutral. She was critical, but neutral, I think, politically. But I saw myself as somebody that needed to raise those banners, right? So I thought...
For me, I remember when I was in uni, when I was causing a lot of trouble, I was rebelling against the government elections. I was doing a lot of...
Where did you go to school?
Curtin, Sarawak.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, in Sarawak. Okay.
Yeah. So I remember after one of the elections where the whole infamous blackout movement was there, I did a lot of things. And then my uncle who's in Kerala, he called me. He's like, you know what? It's in our blood. So we can't do anything about that. Yeah. The left is in our blood. Yeah. Because, we are a communist state. I mean, we were.
Well, yeah, no longer, I think.
No longer. Now it's Congress. Now I think it's BJP, I think, the recent election.
No, BJP just won one seat.
Just one, okay, yeah. So, okay, I want to just pick your brain a few fun quick fire questions. Nothing too serious. I'm sorry.
I'm a very fun guy. I don't know why people think I'm serious. I'm not. No. I'm a laugh. I'm a riot at home.
Now, let's this one. If you could be president of any political party in Malaysia, which one would it be? My goodness, your face just dropped.
Wow. You're asking... I think I wouldn't want to be head of GPS. I think
GPS?
I think I'd be, so it would be PBB, I guess.
Okay.
Abang Joe's party. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That'd be good, okay.
Yeah, be complete control.
Yes. Now, who would you like to see as the next Prime Minister of Malaysia?
I have to name a person?
Yeah, why not?
Wow.
I mean, he's not saying that the current one is bad or anything. He's just saying in the future. I mean, it will change. I mean, looking at Malaysia's political scene.
So this would be a person who I think...
You think?
Can become Prime Minister or just... absolute loser could also... If I could name somebody who's like never going to be Prime Minister, would that be good enough?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Whoever it is.
Well, I must say, okay, I do like the people from the Socialist Party, Dr. Jay Kumar in particular, but I don't think he's going to become Prime Minister. I mean, I don't think the party's going to win. So let me choose a winner. Okay, can I choose a winner?
Go winner.
I'll say Nuriza.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Now, if you could be minister, which ministry would you lead?
So either education or culture.
I kind of guessed that as well, yeah. So if you could interview one person, dead or alive, who would it be?
One person only? Yeah. Wow.
Someone that you would love.
Am I saying wow a lot? Yeah.
No, it's fine. Because you're having so much fun.
Yeah, because I wish I had more sleep. I wish I had a nap before this interview. Who would I want to interview? Oh, well, that's difficult because I think that what I'm looking for today is something Okay, so there's a guy who he just died actually, James Lovelock. So James Lovelock is the author of Gaia, and co-author of the Gaia theory.
I've heard of that book. Yes.
Yeah, Lynn Margolis was his kind of co-author in the development of the theory. So I'm very interested in the planet. I'm very interested in issues of the environment and the ecological crisis we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so James Lovelock, who died at the grand old age of 103,
Wow.
I think saw around the corner. He saw around the corner with regard to what was going to be big. So in the 60s, it was already signaling where the planet was going. And I just love his mind. I love the simplicity. I love the fact that it's not ideologically weighed down in many ways that a lot of us become because we are lesser, I think, intellectuals. And so, yeah, James Lovelock, James Lovelock, British engineer and theorist of the Gaia theory.
Nice. Now, one last one.
I wish you'd send these questions to me ahead of time, but okay. I would have thought about it.
Do you know how hard, and I'm not complaining, but I'm just sharing my personal thing. To come up with this, I had one draft. I threw that all away. I was just overthinking it because, I've seen your interviews and I have huge respect for what you do. And I was like, man, I don't want this guy I want to ask him really good questions. You know what I mean? I hope it's good.
You know, my cynical, contemptuous face, grimace,
looking at me like, what kind of
yeah.
questions is this, man?
Roll my eyes.
Yeah. No, but just to build on what you said, for me, it would be, if I could interview one person, it would be Malcolm X.
I
love that guy. He's my number one.
Now,
last one. Your favorite moment in politics since the formation of the Madani government?
The what?
Your favorite moment in politics? Anything that happened in news since the formation of the Madani government? It can be bad or good, whatever.
Well, I think. I think the region of Johor's most recent statement that he wants the federal. Huh?
He wants 30%, is it?
Well, no, 30% is. Yeah, I mean, but the overall thing, he wants to renegotiate, the federation, the structure of the federation. He seems to suggest that. I think it's fascinating because I do believe that these are the new dynamics that have been set about since since 2018. So since the breakthrough, since the end of BN hegemony and BN domination of Malaysian politics, a lot of things up in the air. And I think, and I actually view it with fascination. I'm from Johor, but I now carry a Selangor. I vote in Selangor.
Okay.
So I've changed my sultan. But more importantly is I think he is probably the most forthright in articulating a view of a particular kind of elite in this country, right? And for me, I just watch with fascination. I'm thinking, where is this all going to go? And then Tun's response to him, I thought was classic.
Yes,
but okay.
It's fantastic. I loved it. It's so Tun Mate. Okay, so now let's go to current topics. Things that are happening now.
All
right. So the one current issue is, of course, the Demand Responsive Transit Project, the DRT, which was awarded to Asia Mobility Technologies in Berhad.
Not just them, there was another
one. No, but it was awarded fully to them, right?
No, they each took different areas in the pilot project, yeah.
So the issue is that, of course, YB Hanayo's husband is one of the co-owners of the company. What do you think of this whole issue?
Okay, so I view this, I did the interviews, right? So...
Oh, you did?
We'd interviewed Premesh Chandran, who is one of the co-founders of Asia Mobility.
Okay.
Ram, who's the other co-founder, had been on and has been a regular guest on BFM and, in fact, on other platforms talking about transport for many years. So for me, they're not new players. I think a lot of, this is my criticism of a kind of easy... critique of our politics is that people are given to sloganeering, right? So this whole thing about cronyism and nepotism, I think one has to look at each case and then look at what is actually going on, rather than use things like I don't know, is it nepotism as a
favoritism,
or favoritism as a kind of bludgeon? Because I don't think it operates in this case. So you can see, for me, I'm much more sympathetic to their arguments that there were only two ministry accredited companies that could have done the pilot. And that, in fact, while people focus on Asia Mobility, there was, I think, another company. I think people forget that. And that they were both given, right? So a tender system would not have worked. So, I mean, I have this, and I basically have bought the Asia Mobility narrative, as you can tell.
But I completely agree with you, because a lot of people who are commenting don't understand that certain projects like this cannot be given via tender, because the way it works is you would have to do a proof of concept, which will take at least about 12 months, maybe even more. Then only after they analyze the whole proof of concept, whether it works, then they award it based on so you have to show that you can do it. Because in such contracts, billion-dollar contracts, it's not, in Malaysia now, it's not like last time where, oh, come on, man, take this billion. No, it's not like that anymore. Agencies are afraid of SPRM and all these people. So I think people are using this as a political tool to just,
Yeah, so there might be true of the political opposition, right? But I also wonder about civil society organizations that have jumped on the bandwagon attacking this. But and I think that, I think people don't understand tech companies. Not everybody's doing this. It's not stationary.
Yes. Yeah.
If the companies were $1 companies, as we have had in the past, getting billion-dollar contracts, you'd be worried too.
Yes, Alibaba companies.
And, there's all these complexities, but, people
they just I find it ridiculous, because this is people just saying, oh, it's wrong just because somebody else said it's wrong. That's not right. It's not this project would not have been, hey, here, man, take this. No, it would not have been like that. And according to Ramachandran, right, his name Ramachandran, he said that this technology isn't even available in Southeast Asia. A lot of countries have not, so we are one of the first. So how can they give it just like that? It's silly.
So, I mean, I think, I have to declare my, relationships, if you like. So I worked with Premesh Chandran, who was, of course, the CEO of Malaysia Kini. We were fellow journalists in The Sun in the mid-90s. Rama, I've only known recently, and mostly because of it's a professional relationship based on his expertise in transport. So, but these are people I have hung out with. I understand what they're doing. So, I don't personally have strong views on this. But as a journalist, I feel that my job is to kind of remind everybody of what the parameters of this is, rather than just do the sloganeering.
So do you think it's fair to ask YB Hanayo to then resign?
This is this thing. I'll resign. I mean, look, Barisan National Time, nobody resigned except I think Zayed Ibrahim resigned once, and I think that was over Fiza Kwok's detention under the ISA, very short detention under the ISA. But what is accomplished, right? So these are gestures that that attempt to demonstrate the power of the person being critical, right? So I put so much pressure on this person; they have resigned. Okay, they might resign, and I do believe there are a lot of good people in politics. Anybody's replaceable, I think. But I don't know if that will resolve things. But yeah, I mean, Hannah's going to have to deal with, like any politician. I don't know her personally, but she's going to have to deal with this like everybody else does.
Yeah, exactly. Now, moving on, another issue now is just today, if I'm not mistaken, Gerakan President from the PN bloc slammed YB Nga Koh Ming because of his announcement of an allocation of 18 million to the South Seberang Prai area in Penang for housing projects. As you know, the by-elections for Sungai Bakap is coming up. So he's accusing him of doing this just because of the by-elections, and saying that if he keeps doing this, it's wrong because it doesn't level the whole playing field. Now, this technique was used recently in the KKB by-elections where suddenly housing was announced, right? Of course, this is being done because, of course, for housing, but you could see the logic if you dig deeper, because the demographics of the area is 59% Malay. 59% Malay. So obviously, Pakatan are worried because they struggle to garner the entire vote from Malays, and PAS is going to run against them. Now, in your experience in journalists and speaking to people, right? Why do you think, and you've spoken to members of PH like Rafizi and all these people, you've spoken to them. Why do you think Anwar struggles to garner the Malay vote?
Oh, that's a very good question, and a question I think that people who actually do research on this would have a better insight into. I don't know. I thought you were going to ask me about Nga Kau Meng and the election question, really. But if you're asking me about the presumption that PH draws lower votes, I think there are complex issues around identity politics in this country that PN has been very successful in deploying and mobilizing. Not always because the people they are capturing as their voter base understand fully the complexities of politics, but they feel something, right? So they feel something, and when you have one group saying very loudly that we are the center of the universe and we are entitled to X, Y, and Z, it's very hard for the other side to say, well, let's be reasonable and let's share this nation and let's be fair to everybody. So the let's be fair to everybody argument or rhetoric doesn't seem as attractive, maybe, for some people. They're much more interested in parties that promise them that they will be the center of the world. And I think this would be true of anywhere. But there's a limit to it, as we saw in India, because Narendra Modi, tried to appeal to Hindu majoritarian sentiments. He very famously did the Ram Mandir temple on the foundations of the Babri Mosque, Babri Masjid, thinking that this was going to win him votes. His party actually lost in the very constituency in which this great gesture of Hindu majoritarianism was made. And so there are limits. You can play this game for a while, but at the end of the day, people are going to ask, what are you delivering, right? So the people who living governed by PAS-led or PN-led states are going to ask themselves, what are they getting for this? Yeah. And at some point, they're going to have to pay up. They're going to have to show that they're delivering on something other than the rhetoric. So I don't know, maybe there's just going to be a period during which Anwar is going to have to stay the course, hopefully stay the course in his vision of a much more inclusive Malaysia until he brings on board more people. And I think he's very lucky that there are all kinds of other elements in the equation that allow for him to continue to stay the course reasonably. Against the much more exclusivist, narrow-minded, insular. I have so many abbreviations to go through before I get to the end of my sentence. Kind of vision that PN is peddling. Gerakan, who cares? Yeah,
they're inconsequential. Yeah.
So, they used to be the multiracial party of Barisan Nasional. They have a long and illustrious history going back to the Gerakan of Wong Gang Mu and all those intellectual side of Hussein Alatas, before K69. And now people remember that because they've become, I think, largely irrelevant.
Yeah. But in this, still in this case of when we talk about these handouts, basically people are accusing, of course, that these are buying elections, right? You're buying votes.
That's true.
Yeah, but
I don't know where else to look at it.
Exactly, right? Because the timing and the number and
they did in KKB.
Yeah.
Look, honestly, I think there's a segment of the population and electorate that feels okay. If we're going to get anything from any government, it's going to be during elections. So squeeze the most out of them, right? Get something.
But is that good though?
No, of course it's not good. But not being pragmatic, you see. So the population is being pragmatic. You go to any part of the world, this country during elections, especially where people are a little under pressure economically and all that. And they're not queasy about accepting gifts from politicians. They know they can vote any way they want because the system is reasonably protects them, to some extent. So you can take money from a politician, you can still vote the way you want.
The way you want, yeah.
Right? And so you take a gift. Now, we don't want to encourage that. And we want a Malaysia where citizens don't feel that they need to do this, right? I mean, they're all well-to-do enough that they can just say, no, thank you to your 50 ringgit. It's not going to buy my vote. And you've just insulted me, so I'm not going to vote for you. But there are a lot of people in the country for whom, these gifts are important. So, the kind of deals that were struck around KKB, there was a case of the Longhouse, the issue that had been resolved as a consequence of the KKB by-election.
The estates,
Yeah, and I think the people who benefit from that are going to be saying, well, I'm glad glad a by-election came along and I got this, right? Because otherwise, the democratic system, and this is our failure, the democratic system is not paying off in the way it should pay off for the ordinary person, right?
Now, I mean, it's great that you brought it up, because I have one question about democracy, and I think I want to get your input on that. But before on that, another key issue now is this person called Firdaus Wong, who is recently been in the headlines because of his statements about converting youth minors in hiding, if you will. And what has happened is some NGOs have come up. In fact, I think yesterday there was a press con, in fact, where an NGO actually requested for an apology and a public condemnation of his statements from the Mandani government. They have called for the Ministry of Education to ban him from entering any schools and all that. What do you think should be the appropriate response to him after his remarks?
Well, I can't say. I did look at the news in a cursory fashion, so I really can't speak to it. Firdaus Wong and others like him have been around for a long time. I don't know. People blame Madani for the current government for everything. Something happens to the Bajar Laut, suddenly it's somebody screaming on Twitter that Anwar's responsible. I mean, this is the kind of level of ridiculousness that we have in our public sphere. But okay, that aside, I think that I don't know if you're religious. I was, as a teenager, religious, and I was, exposed to people with different views. My mother's Catholic, my dad's Hindu, and I grew up kind of neither and everything. And when you're a teenager, you're very impressionable. I mean, you are converted to politics. I became a socialist when I was a teenager. People become things and ideas. So yes, we have a constitution, we have laws that protect minors and all that. And there's all this whole dynamic around Malay majoritarianism. But the truth is, people might want to follow their heart and become, or join a religion or adhere to a religion that is not their religion of their parents, right? So, and we would like some restraint. But I think these things get very politicized in Malaysia when it's really about personal belief. And of course, we know that this is a one-way street in Malaysia. So somebody converting Islam probably not as controversial for the state and for a majority of politicians than the other way around. So if you wanted to convert out of Islam, of course, that's more difficult. So I think that I'm not interested personally in a polemic against Firdaus Wong or any of the people who operate in that field, because I'm not sure that what is being demanded is about the individuals involved. I think what is being demanded is about some larger gesture about politics and the balance of power between different ethnic groups and different religious groups. But what about the person who actually wanted to convert? I mean, is anybody gone and talked to that child or teenager and said, why is it that you wanted to convert? What was it that attracted you? Because I know that as teenagers, we get attracted to a lot of things.
Exactly.
We're being converted every day to kinds of ideologies, right? So to suddenly draw a line on this and then blame Firdaus Wong for this, I don't know. I'm not personally interested in that polemic.
Okay, awesome. Back to what you said earlier about democracy. Funny, I had this question as well, considering your socialist background. And
on the same background, I'm not a card-carrying member of any party. I have never been a member of any political party.
Yeah. And, okay, for me, when I look at politics today, I think to myself whether or not is democracy the right system? And I tell you why. It's because our power starts and stops at the voting station. That's it. We don't have any power to decide anything as a voter. We cannot decide who represents us in whichever area of parliament. You can't. You can't pick, like, I'm not given a panel of 5 people and say, okay, pick who you want to be this party's representative. I don't have that. I just pick whatever you give me. And so what happens in Malaysia is we don't pick the person, we pick the party because we don't know who the person is anyway, right? We rely on the party. That's one. Number 2 is I have no power on policy. I cannot decide if, for example, if Malaysia wants to participate in the IHR, I can't say no. I have no power. I can protest on the street, but at the end of the choice is up to the government and in power. And lastly is, if things are going the wrong way in any area of parliament, if my member of parliament is going the wrong way, there is no kill switch. There is no way for me to say, nope, he's not the guy who's doing the wrong thing. I want to vote him out. I can't do that. So with all this being considered and the way we are today in Malaysia, do you think democracy is the right mode of governance for us? Or perhaps should we explore?
What alternative would you propose? I mean, if democracy is not right, and you point out some flaws in it and some limitations, what would replace it?
A hybrid system, perhaps, or
democracy plus
a bit of socialism.
Well, I don't even know what socialism has come in many forms, including very authoritarian forms.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what that would be. I mean, look. It's said over and over again, democracy is not the perfect system, but it's probably the best of what we have. And to some extent, that's true. You can have more, you could have more plebiscites and referendum, and you could have issue-specific, votes. So you could, like you might have in the American system, you vote for your reps, but then you might vote on an initiative, right? And so that is a way of getting some policy thing. But do you think that? I think the larger problem is does the majority even know better, right? And so if you take the position that you want to reform democracy and make it more responsive to the majority or to the population, then you might actually get more and more chaos. I don't know if you've ever been on the management committee of any building.
No,
it is a lesson in how difficult it is to aggregate demand, find consensus, get civility to be the order of the day, and somehow progress, right? In terms of in a building, what do you want? Upkeep, maintenance, don't want the roof to fall in, make sure everybody's safe. Even on that level is difficult.
Okay.
And I don't expect democracy to deliver miracles. I think this country has a vibrant civil society. It could be even more vibrant. And they have proved over and over again that politicians are not insulated from the demands of experts and concerned citizens in the civil society. And I think our democracy is fine. It's not the best. It's not the worst. And so I have no problems not only with the idea of democracy and liberal democracy and all that. I don't even have a problem with how our really existing Malaysian democracy operates. I would like to see it improved in different ways, but I don't think that is the problem.
No, for me, I feel that one of the key issues that we have is, especially now, we practice a post-electoral system. I am completely and utterly against that. I think that is the root, one of the biggest causes of the problems that we have. You see, I come from a time of the old BN, right? During Tun Mahathir and all that. Say what you want. But there was stability then. In the sense that you could implement programs, policies, and you could carry them out in a lengthy period of time because these things take time. Today, what we are seeing is governments we've had 3 prime ministers in a span of 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, 4 to 5 years. Policies cannot take place. So I feel those kind of areas should be refined, that we should look at, okay, if we elect this government, we should give them time to operate, to integrate their policies, and then only we will see change. Otherwise, it's just a game of Russian roulette, like, whatever happens. So that's part where it frustrates me a little. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think people are probably, like you, frustrated by that too. But I do think Malaysians have to give ourselves some time. I mean, we came out of this, as you say, very stable Barisan National system and into something much more volatile because the parties that came together did so over one particular issue. That was the corruption of the Barisan National government. and Najib Razak, in 2018. And so they were uneasy bedfellows, and we've had some adjustments. And when you look at countries around the world, democratic countries that have had no government, some government, change government, no, we're not that bad. I mean, if Anwar lasts the 5 years, that would be a return to some sort of stability. I mean, think of post-war Italy and how many prime ministers had. But, this is also maybe a time to pause and say, what is it that we really want? Want democracy, or you want a stable authoritarian system? You can't have both. You can't.
I'm a fan of the latter. I don't know. I have this belief that I don't know whether I'm right. Please share your thoughts. But I feel that history is moved by dictators, and in those.
So you're for dictatorship?
Yeah. I think if you have.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes, it's fine. Name me a successful dictatorship in your mind. And I think there are a few, but you tell me.
No, in this context,
in the region. Singapore.
Peter the Great. I think
Peter the Great.
No, I feel
Peter the Great.
No. Why I say that is, I feel democracy as a system, as you rightfully say, if you go to an apartment building, the management committee, right? Because there's too many chefs at the pot, things don't move.
So what do you want to do? Eliminate the other chefs?
I'm thinking like a dictator, right?
It sounds nice. I mean, I think in some countries the government has been able to insulate itself from public pressure. But then earlier you said you were grumbling about not being able to inform policy and all that. Unless you are the dictator, what is this idea that you have?
No, even during the time of Tun Mahathir, it was sort of like that. You had a very authoritative prime minister who
authoritarian, yes, absolutely, yes.
But things moved, things happened.
Well, could it have been better without it? Could it have been more consultative? There are a number of things that could have been done if experts and NGOs and all that came into it. I mean, the civil society movement in Malaysia is quite interesting because they were signaling problems that were happening in Malaysian society that Dr. Mahathir and his ilk would never acknowledge. And he would talk about democratic extremists and, dismiss people in the environmental movement. If we had 30 years ago started planning for a better response to our environment and, a better, a more sustainable response to our natural resources, how much better off would we be today? So,
but you just said,
I'm saying to you, your dictator, you call me, I'm telling you, your dictator didn't see what you're impressed by is a tall building in KL, but look at the rest of the country. I think when we look back at what Mahathir did, there are pluses and minuses. Well, really? Do you think authoritarian Malaysia is any better? I don't mind a bit of chaos and a bit of mess and a lot of noise. For me, it's okay. That's exactly the democracy.
But as you rightfully said just now, democracy isn't perfect. The one we have now isn't perfect either.
Well, you think perfection is possible?
No, it's not. I agree with you. So what I'm agreeing with you.
I think it's a perfect dictatorship.
It's not perfect. It wasn't perfect. There were problems as well. Yeah. But at least
things got done.
Things moved.
Name me 20th century dictator that you like. Come on.
20th century.
Dictator. Don't go Peter the Great and all that. I mean, he's a royal, and that's from a very different time. Okay.
I'll get back to you on that answer.
Catherine the Great. No. 20th century dictator that you like.
Oh wow.
There's a few. Come on, Pinochet. Hitler,
okay,
Charles de Gaulle. I mean, just to name a few.
Mussolini.
Yeah, come on. Who do you like? Look. No, I think the challenge today is this. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a real challenge to liberal democracies in that.
You made me look really bad. Hitler.
I mean, you have to name me somebody, lah.
No.
Okay, so you see, let me put it this way.
Okay.
I think there is a real challenge to democracy, and it comes from China. I think the Chinese model really makes us think. I'm not talking about Mao Zedong. I'm talking Deng Xiaoping. I'm talking about what's happened since, right? That extraordinary transformation of a country, the upliftment of literally hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Who can beat that? That is the challenge that the Communist Party of China poses to the rest of the democratic world. And today, yes, there will be people who suffer because of that dictatorship. But then you can see the extraordinary transformations of a society, the wealth generated, the jobs, there are problems and it's slowing down and all these things I think people talk about. But I think that's where the real challenge is. And in a world where people, and this is the subject of a lot of discussion, the democratic recession that we're having, all that, people, as the planet struggles with all that it has to struggle with, and economies change and the center of power moves, you see people retreat to dictatorship because they think that's the answer. They believe that a strong leader is going to deliver them from whatever misery they are in. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I think as humans, we struggle. I mean, humans civilized only 15,000 years. Really? When did we start domesticating plants and animals? It's only been 15,000 years. And as an experiment, human societies, we made some major mistakes, but we've done some interesting, extraordinary things, especially in the last 300 years. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to be a citizen of China. I'm not predisposed to wanting, but I think a lot of people might say, well, that's not a bad option if you can deliver.
No, I just want to see things get done. Okay.
What things?
No.
What
You
things?
see, okay.
Who gets to decide the things?
No. Okay. Say, for example, right now we have democracy, right? This is our system now. Okay. What I would like to see in this government now, and I'm not someone who is a detractor of PMX just because for the sake of it. No. What I hate is I have not heard since the Madani government, since PH came into power, anyone coming out on news, on media, and putting up a bold statement saying, this is where I want the country to be. This is where we want to head to. I want to hear things like that.
I hear it all the time. And they have these plans in Johor. They have this.
It's fragmented.
They have blueprints. They're like most governments. I mean, what exactly do you want them to say? Tell me.
Okay,
what do you want Anwar to say?
No, I give you a very simple example.
By the way, I would never interview somebody in this style. I would never. I mean, meaning me hectoring you.
I'm saying, yeah, come on. This is a podcast. We're having fun. Yeah, it's fun. No, like for instance, let's take the in Malaysia, the Indians now. We suffer from issues. There are pockets of us who have issues. I'm just giving an example, right? No Indian leader has come out and said, this is my vision for my people. We'll work together to get it happen. None. You know what?
Would you follow them? Would you follow somebody who came up with some grand vision for Indians in Malaysia?
Well, at least it's something. You're telling me where you're going to go.
I mean, look, okay. You ask me, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not interested in grand gestures and some speech by a politician.
But a plan?
I mean, if you have a plan, put it down. Let me talk about it, negotiate it, because I don't believe any one person. To quote a kind of off-quoted expression, I believe in the wisdom of the crowd. I really do believe that we're better off being consultative and talking to, various organizations and individuals with expertise or concerns, not just technocrats, but a whole range of people, and negotiating those things. Because whatever plan, grand vision you might have, you have to bring everybody along with it. Otherwise, you're going to have resistance. Otherwise, you're going to get pushback. Otherwise, you'll have sabotage. Everything which any new government has had to deal with. If you remember in 2018, one of the headlines was sabotage within the civil service. The Pakatan Harapan government was being sabotaged internally. Now, you think you just because, if it was Mahathir Anwar at that point, came out with a grand vision that he would everybody would fall in line. It doesn't work that way. People will resist. They will resist quietly. Sometimes they resist more noisily. I just don't think that's the way. Unfortunately, being consultative and democratic means it's going to take a bit more time. You just have to be persuasive, right? And you have to at least bring a good number of people and the key stakeholders along with you. A lot of Malaysians are impatient today because they wanted things changed yesterday, especially things that require, a great deal of finessing, a great deal of nuance in your analysis and in your mapping of the landscape. And it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
It's going to take time.
So yeah.
Now, moving on to a more recent sort of something fun on social media. After the announcement of the removal of the diesel subsidy, the whole revision of diesel.
This is fun. This is your idea of fun.
No, hold on. I'm getting there. Now, there have been videos going viral on social media, basically people posting previous clips of PMX and also YB Rafizi, talking about how, sort of blaming the people for not voting for them. Because if they were in power, then, all these prices won't go up. They will, in fact, bring it lower and all that stuff. You juxtaposition that with what they're saying now.
On the question of subsidies?
Subsidies. Now, my thing is, it's very clear these videos are telling a story. They are saying that, you can't trust what they say. Right? Now, do you think that Malaysians now, with all this happening, can we ever trust politicians again?
Why not? I mean, you've got to trust somebody. I mean, you're going to put them in power. I mean, would you want Malaysia without a government? I certainly want Malaysia with a government, something, at least. But let's put it this way. I think we are also very selective in the way we think about our problems in this country. And I blame politicians for also articulating things in very unnuanced terms. I'm not, letting them off the hook. But the truth of the matter is, with any of these things, right, the real issue is that net, if you put a bunch of policies together, including, subsidy rationalization, will you get better outcomes, especially for government, right? Will the government have more money to spend on the more important things of the day? Now, people just don't recognize what is happening with the subsidy, right? So somebody was telling me they were on the ground in Sabatik Island. Do you know Sabatik Island?
No,
it's that island off the sort of southeast coast of Sabah. Okay. This is half Indonesian, half Malaysian. Okay. The prices of fuel in Indonesia are very high. Ours is very low.
Yes, we are the lowest. Yeah. Thailand and Singapore.
And you know what people are doing? These would be the people with lots of money. They are transporting diesel from one side of the island to the other side and selling it on the Indonesian side. And so what the government recognizes is that all these really negative incentives built into this system of subsidies. And what they're trying to do is say, look, the best way to deal with it is to, get rid of the subsidies and then transfer those to those communities that are affected by a lack of subsidies, the money that they have to spend. And that's, for me, it's a reasonable thing.
Yeah,
right?
I do agree with
that. And so, okay, the truth also is, if you're in opposition, you can say anything you want. You're not governing. You don't have to care about the coffers. You don't have to care about revenue. This is Pakatan's biggest problem when it was fighting the GST. Now they are suffering from it, right? They say they don't need this, that, blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, our tax base is so low. You pay taxes? Yeah. I pay taxes. You know how many percent of Malaysians pay taxes? Very few of us, right? And so how can any government survive if it doesn't have revenue or it has insufficient revenue? And this is what the government is grappling with. So it's needed to say, without panic, making people panic. People, don't know, why don't you just go ahead? People want a strong and visionary government on issues that they are most concerned about, but where they are a bit kind of like, I'm going to lose something out, they want more consultation, they are saying, why you want to do this? And we have absurd type of statements made by people who say, I pay taxes, I deserve a subsidy. A tax that you pay to government, if you're rich enough to pay taxes, is not something you expect to get back, except in general social services, roads and stuff like that, and health. I think it's very important for everybody. But the idea that somehow you, as a middle-class person, also deserves a subsidy for your petrol or a subsidy for your toll is absurd.
Too much money. The bill is too high.
No, and that's not how taxes work. You really have to believe that we as a country survive. This is the kind of social democratic ideal, is because the rich do help pay for the poor, right? And therefore, we all have some level, we create some sort of stability in the system. If the rich took everything and never gave back, I mean, this is any society will fall apart. Then you have a very grim kind of society, and I think sharing of needs to happen. And I'm happy to pay my taxes. I'm happy to pay my taxes. I wish there was this, that, and the other. I wish our health system was better. I wish there was more money in health. Because I'm getting to the age where, but I still think, generally the taxes are not completely misspent, and we don't have, we don't spend a lot of arms. We're not like some countries going to war all the time, so, okay.
That's good. All right. No, I agree with you. I'm okay with the subsidies completely. I think it's fine because what their reasoning was, it made
in
sense.
removing the subsidies.
Yeah,
All for it.
all for it. I mean, it made sense. I know people will get angry, but
So I trust politicians. You have to. I mean, look, what is the option? What exactly is the option if you don't trust politicians?
I understand. Yeah, but I just want more. As a voter, I want more.
Oh, you want more, and you want it yesterday. Okay.
No. I mean, no. What I mean is, I just want them to give me an idea what their roadmap is, what is their grand vision for the country. That's what.
Grand visions. I think this country's had too many grand visions. Just make things work.
All right, fair enough. I'm enjoying this, by the way. I love it. Now, since you're a journalist, recently there's been a request from the Madani government made towards Meta and TikTok. They have demanded them to show a plan on how they're going to further crack down on content, online content that touches the 3 R's, right? Race, religion, and royalty, right? Now, when I hear things like this,
do they know where Malaysia is? Okay.
Yeah. When I hear things like this, I get worried because not in Hitler's Germany, things like this have happened, right? And when I hear government,
that's a dictator that you don't like, is it?
I'm not too fond of. Now, I just feel that when I hear censorship like this, it worries me that perhaps we are on a slippery slope when eventually what we listen, what we watch, what we speak is all curtailed. It's all controlled, right? Do we need to be worried?
Well, I wouldn't be hysterical about it. Look, these platforms themselves do a lot of censoring.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, we just look at the so-called media that we've lauded as being so open. On Gaza and on Israel, they're just horrible. They're horrible. They've completely been unmasked. The platforms have been unmasked for being, just in league with the most vile, one of the most vile governments on the planet currently, and are willing to, really curtail, free speech when it suits them. So I don't even it's like, hands off Meta and hands off what's the other company? TikTok. I mean, TikTok's not American. It's not. The Americans want to kill TikTok because it doesn't serve their purpose. So I think there are pressures all over, but there's also just the force of, I think, the population. I think information flows in ways that make it very difficult for governments to control. It actually even makes it difficult for some of these platforms to control. They try. I think we've always had that. I don't think I wouldn't be alarmist about it. My bigger question is the question that a friend posed at a panel discussion like 25 years ago. He says, okay, you're also concerned about censorship and a lack of freedom. But when you have the freedom, what are you doing with it? I mean, what exactly are we doing with the existing freedom that we have? Is our content brilliant? Are we putting out there in the world, some really thoughtful analysis of what is happening? Are we speaking to everybody? Are we, and are we giving those with less voice more voice? Are we, punching up to those in power? Are we really doing that with the freedom that we have? I don't know we are. So,
but that doesn't mean that we need to curtail that freedom just because.
We don't have to. No, they're two, and you're right. They're separate issues in many ways, but they're related. Because I think the obsession with the curtailing of freedom is much more intense than the concern about the quality of public life and public culture and what happens when there is freedom. So, and maybe we'll never solve that problem, right? And there'll always be a push to curtail, as we see happening in the bastions of liberal democracy. Europe is terrible today. You go to, you see arts institutions are supposed to be bastions of free speech, curtailing any expression of pro-Palestinian sympathies because it doesn't match, the desires of their donors who are pro-Israeli. And so for me, it's like, okay, I just don't believe that we have one enemy when it comes to freedom of speech. But I think our biggest problem is ourselves. Are we thoughtful? Are we really dealing with the information that we have in thoughtful ways? So I think we should always stand up against government, but I don't think we should be obsessed with it as much as we should be concerned about the quality of our public discourse.
Being a journalist for as long as you have, do you think that censorship during the BN times and compared to now Has it gotten worse or is it better?
Oh, Monkas is much better.
Much better.
Of course. I mean, there's no comparison. Barisan National tried to, I mean, it was just horrible. I mean, but even then we were able to do things. Since 2018, except maybe the Muhyiddin period. I think under Muhyiddin's administration, they really did try to tighten things up. I had sort of the inside view on some of the things that administration tried to do when it wanted to argue for an emergency, and then they called it. And they actually were issuing and tried to control news organizations by saying, this is the line you should take, you should call it Darurat Kesehatan and all that. Remember, they failed the first time and then they succeeded the second time. But under the Muhyiddin administration, there was a real attempt to control the press in the way that the Mahathir administration, Pakatan Mahathir administration didn't, and the way that the Sabri Ismail Sabri administration couldn't, weren't competent enough maybe. And I certainly don't think this administration is anywhere near what Barisan National did when it comes to curtailing. We like to raise our banners and grumble. So let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, just last few questions. I don't want to keep you. I know you've had a long day, but again, thank you again for being here. But as you mentioned just now, it's a good point that you mentioned. So just to segue to this, there was this very nice lyric that I found that I like from this old classic rock band called The Who, right? So it goes like this. It said, "I'll tip my hat to the new constitution, take a bow for the new revolution, smile and grin at the change all around, pick up my guitar and play just like yesterday. Then I'll get on my knees and pray we don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again. No, no. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss." Now, with that in mind, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. The way you are saying now, Muhyiddin was from the BN government before. And, even if PN comes into power and, we may be getting the same thing as we did many, many decades ago. Do you think that perhaps Malaysians should be brave enough to explore other options, such as the third force or the left in the coming election?
You mean, the next election so far away? I don't know what Malaysians want. I mean, I think of course, if there are a lot of people say, the left is, like the good guys and all that. But, the left, if they want to govern, will have to govern a coalition. This country is going to be, Barisan National was a coalition, right? So coalitions are just the nature of the beast. In Malaysia, I don't know. See, I don't know what you want from politics. I actually don't want so much from politics. I think maybe I've become less inclined to believe that politics is going to deliver everything. For me personally and for us collectively. I just don't think it's going to be the winner. And maybe societies don't change that way. Maybe, human societies, tend not to change as dramatically as we think. Sometimes they have dramatic moments, but they tend to snap back into a kind of DNA, as the lyrics from The Who suggest. And they have wonderful movies that reflect that kind of attitude, that kind of thinking, right? That, in fact, in many ways, the old DNA within a society reemerges even after a revolution, right? A revolution be promising and complete overturn. So I actually think that maybe, unfortunately for the human race, it is going to be something much more cataclysmic that is going to make us think differently about ourselves. And therefore, coming back to James Lovelock, he was asked, this was in his late 90s or maybe mid-90s, he was asked about, not using plastic bags so much. And then he just sort of poo-pooed the idea and said that he actually thought we had gone beyond the tipping point in terms of how we had changed the dynamics of the planet. But, he was a great believer in the planet and in life in general. And, we've had many mass extinctions on the planet. If in this next one, human beings are wiped out, what do you think is going to happen? He thinks about
life's a cycle.
But no, in this case, humans might not come back in quite the same way. So he's not hopeful about human beings. He's actually much more bullish about life as a whole. And though I must say he's quite interested in the human being as a moment in which the planet gets to reflect upon itself, because we are that kind of creature. that the planet is produced, right? We're all produced by sunlight.
Yes.
So I'm a sun worshipper, by the way.
Okay.
You know? But yeah, so for me, it's, I'm much more at this point in my life thinking about that. I like to see democracy deliver on small things. And, it's important that those who are really not doing well in our country get more support. I know this is often read in racial terms, but I don't think it's that. There are a lot of people who are suffering in this country, live in the peripheries. The Bajalawat story, again, is a reminder of how people are hard done by the structures that we have. And that's what I want politics to deliver on. I don't need, and I don't want actually grand visions. I think, in fact, the 20th century is full of grand visions, and we know how that went. So, no, I think less politics, maybe some good administration, and a little more compassion for the country.
No, just in closing, since you mentioned about movies, there's this really amazing political movie called Lions for Lambs. It's a beautiful movie. I think it's a fantastic movie. Robert Redford's in it. It's amazing. And there's a line in that movie that where this professor says that in World War I, the Germans were very impressed by the British soldiers, just how much fight they had, and but they would mock all the British superior officers by saying that they were rubbish. And the quote that one of these German generals wrote was that never has he ever seen such lions ruled by such lambs. When I think about that, and I think about the way politics is in Malaysia, sometimes we get disappointed and all that with the stature of leadership and all that. Maybe we want better, maybe want more. I'm sure you do too. I don't think you would be happy with everything as the way it is. It's not perfect. But my thing is, in today's world, which is a very different world from 1990s, now it's a different world now. Do you think that perhaps the answer for a better nation resides more with us as a society rather than relying on politicians?
Look, as far as I can tell, politicians are human beings and they're members of our society. And in many ways, they're a symptom of us. So, yes, I mean, in a sense, you could just say that, if we as a society are much more involved, if we're much more thoughtful, and if we're much more compassionate, we'll produce a politics that's more thoughtful and compassionate. And that politicians will follow our lead. Because that's
not the other way around?
Well, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I'm just following the logic of what you're saying is that, okay, but because I don't see a strict division between this lambs and lions thing. I really don't know if Malaysians as a whole are so great. I mean, society, as opposed to their politicians so horrible. I mean, the truth is, I think they're just as bad as we are. I mean, look, Malaysians are pretty... Oh, the knocking is going on. The Malaysians can be as racial. I mean, check the number of people who complained about racism in the country who themselves scratch them, pinch them, poke them, and they will be racist themselves. The racism is everywhere.
Everyone's racist. I agree with that.
Right? Yeah, so I don't think politicians are a different creature. I think they're a function of who we are. And so... But we need to do more work. And I think, I work in the media partly because I have a, belief, faith, as deluded as most faith-based belief systems are, that we will become better. I do believe that, but I think it's a bit deluded. I think more likely is something cataclysmic is going to happen, and then we'll all have to be better.
Because
we could just bungle the whole thing and do much worse, because crisis will force us to make the changes that we need. We will
change at the precipice of something.
Well, as we are free falling off the cliff. I mean,
that's when we decide to build a plane.
I don't think that maybe that unfortunately for Malaysia, the complacency and years of entitlement and feeling the center of the world. We wake up suddenly find, Vietnam has overtaken us. Oh my God. I mean, we always believed Singapore was ahead of us. Yeah. But, Vietnam one day overtook us, right? Remember when they announced all the EV cars and all that? And it was like, hey, we thought of it first, but because we never acted on it sufficiently. And Indonesia is going to overtake us, And I believe today, the Sarawakians are very tired of the federation and also looking to overtake us. They're going to take, internally they're going to...
The things they say is very progressive and very nice. Yeah,
and you see it in any government. I mean, you see it in the if you look at the so-called most progressive states of the federation, I mean, the Selangors and the Penangs. Are they being run with dynamic people who are announcing things on an almost weekly basis? I mean, I'm not saying that the Sarawakian leadership is necessarily going to get it all right, but they have that kind of vision, the kind of thing that you like. Strong leadership, brook no dissent, have a vision, So, coming back to the question I asked you earlier, which dictator do you like?
Tayyip. No, I think I'm a I know maybe I'm going to get burned for this, but I got to say it. I'm a big fan of Tun Mahathir leadership style, and I say this because
Say it.
I can see you laughing.
I'm laughing openly. I'm not laughing behind your back.
No, I like leaders like Sukarno. I like those type of leaders. Leaders who are strong. Leaders who leaders who have a vision and lead people towards that vision. I like that. And maybe it's wrong for me to say I like a dictatorship, but I think the better way to say it is I like strong leaders and leaders who make the bold moves and leaders who say, look, this is where we should be. These are our problems and we want to solve them and this is how we're going to do it. And
Xi Jinping.
Yeah, Xi Jinping, yes. Even
Narendra Modi.
Oh, I don't like him.
Okay.
Because I don't like people who run on religion. I think that is cheating. And let me just say, I'm sorry, you asked the question, don't mind me answering. I just feel that it's like playing a game using a cheat code. Religion is the easiest thing to sort of tug at the heartstrings of the voters. Come on, get better. Try something else. You know what I mean? So that I grew up liking people like Sukarno, people like a Lee Kuan Yew. He said something very well. He said to rule Singapore, that leader needs to have a certain iron about him. And I think I like that iron, that iron fist. Sometimes you need that.
The iron fist. Okay. Now, remember, this man might run for public office.
Who knows?
You heard it first here. He wants to rule with an iron fist.
Iron fist, I like that. I do. Yeah. So I enjoy that. I don't like leaders who, I don't know. I like strong leaders. I just grew up with that. Like I said, my favorite leader of all time is Malcolm X, who's tough, who was the best way to say it. He was an immovable object or an unstoppable force.
Yeah, but he never was in power.
Never was in power, but that was because of the assassination. Who knew what he was planning to do after that? What he was like bringing all. Yeah. He was going to bring about the whole Africa under one, take America to the courts and all that kind of stuff. He had big plans. And of course, unfortunately, he was assassinated and then all those plans went down the drain. So I think we could have seen a lot more from him. I'm a big fan of leaders like that. And that is why I think I gravitate more to the left a bit. Because you see...
Or the right. There are many dictators both on the left and the right. So,
yeah. But you know what? That's... I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you very much.
I loved it. I love talking to you. I hope we can have you back again and just see you laugh at me this time.
I'm laughing
really
with
builds my ego, man.
I'm laughing with you, not at you.
Doesn't seem like that. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So that's all for today, guys. I hope my views do not make you unfollow the account. But anyway, it was a good fun having a discussion about politics. It's really fun. I was really hoping that this conversation was going to be something more casual. And in fact, I was using the word casual to you all the time. And it has become just that. I was so stressed coming to this conversation. I said, I have Sharaad Kuttan on. I've got to be on my A game, but you know what? I end up being laughed at. So, but
it was you pull out your A game. That's good. It's good.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's such an honor coming from you. So, thank you guys again for watching. As always, please like, share, subscribe. We'll be sharing Mr. Sharaad's links on the description. So, if you guys want to get in touch with him and for any reason, maybe pick his brain about politics a bit, you know what, just you can speak to him directly. Until next time, as always, please like, share, subscribe, and share your comments. And thank you and good night. We'll see you again. Bye.